If you don't understand cell references, 90% of your Excel formulas will fail. Welcome to the Excel Essential series. In today's video, we'll cover one of the most important concepts in Excel, cell references. A cell reference simply tells Excel where to look for data in your sheet. The way you have A1 for column A, row 1, and you have B2 for column B, row 2. The way Excel behaves when you copy or drag formulas depend on the type of reference you use. We have three key type of cell reference. The first one is a relative reference. It changes when you copy the formula. The next one, when you copy or you move the formula. The next is the absolute reference, which stays locked to one cell no matter where you copy or you move your formula. The next is the mixed reference. For mixed reference, you lock either the column or the row. Now let's quickly go into our Microsoft Excel to practice this. Here we have a product sales data set where we have the customer ID, the product, the price, and quantity. Let's calculate the total sales by multiplying price by quantity. So for us to do that, we bring our equal sign. For every time you want to write a function or a formula in Excel, first thing first is your equal sign. So now we call on the cell reference. So this is C2, which is the first price here, multiplied by D2. So we go ahead and do enter on our keyboard. So this is the total sales amount. And when we autofill by clicking here or dragging, when we drag, you'll see that when we drag, the cell reference, they are changing. So you can see from here that on our formula bar, this is C2, and here this is C3, D3. So the cell reference is changing as we move down. So now let's look at absolute reference. Now imagine we want to apply a fixed tax rate of 7.5%. Let's say it's the value added tax for this transaction, and we want to multiply each of these total by 7.5%. We don't want to do that one after the other. So I can just come in here and type in 7.5%. 7.5%. So I want to multiply each of these total by 7.5%. Is approximating it to 8%, which I don't want. So I will increase the decimal point here. So this is 7.5%. Let's do our multiplication now. So this will be this multiplied, D3 multiplied by E1, and I will do enter on my keyboard. So this is the value added tax for for the first transaction we have here. So for the next transaction, I can't drag without locking because the cell reference is what we currently have is the relative reference, right? And we can see that it's returning error for us. So for us to solve this problem, we have to go and lock this cell. We have to go and lock this cell so that when we drag, it doesn't change. So we can go ahead and lock absolutely. So for us to lock absolutely, we use the F4 keyboard, or you can try FN F4, and it will you have the dollar sign. So if you have your dollar sign before your column label is E in this case, and row label is 1. Our rows are usually labeled numerically and our columns are labeled alphabetically. So once you have your dollar sign before the row and before the column, that is absolute reference. So now I can go ahead and I can autofill now. So once I autofill or drag, we'll see that the value added tax did not change. It remained constant all through. Remain constant all through. And the good thing about this is if we also drag by the left, let's say we have some numbers here and we drag, this will still remain constant. This will remain constant. E1 is going to remain constant because we locked it absolutely, but we don't have to drag in here. So absolute reference is when you lock your cell absolutely so that it doesn't change irrespective of where you drag your cell to. So we have the final price here. So for the final price, it will be the total sales amount plus the value added tax. That will give us the final price. So for us to do that, this is equal to this plus this plus this. So once we do that, so this is E D3 plus E3, and we have the final amount this customer, the first customer, will be paying. And with this, this is also relative reference, because you can see that it's changing for each of the cell. So you see, we've been able to use the relative reference, and also we've also worked with absolute reference. Now let's go to the third form of cell reference, which is the mixed reference. For mixed reference, you lock either your column or your row in mixed reference. So you are locking either your column or your row in mixed reference. So let's look at this data set, what we have here. So this is more like a budget allocation or salary allocation for each month, right? So for each month, this person already has like a plan or a budget percentage allocated to each bill category, and we can see that rent is 25%, food is 20%, transport is 10%, utility is 10%, and we can see savings and investment as 20%. So we want, and this is the total earning for each of the months, right? This is from January 2025 to September 2025. Now we have to help this person allocate each of these amounts to rent, to food, so they know how much they'll be spending for each of these bill category. So let's go ahead, let's do that using our mixed reference. So for us to do that, again, your equal sign. So we want to multiply this, right? We want to multiply this by, so asterisk by rent. So rent here is 25%. We already have it listed out here. So rent here is 25%. I'll go ahead and hit enter. So this is the amount of money this particular person will be using for rent. $4,500 will be allocated for rent. Now, if I drag this, it's going to return error, or it's going to return the wrong values for me, because here now you can see that B2 is B2 M4, right? Meanwhile, we want it to stay consistent on M3. We want it to stay consistent on M3. So for that reason, we'll have, this is wrong, because when we sum this value together, this is 100%, right? When we sum all this together, this is 100%. So if you sum this together, if you sum this together, it's changing, so it's giving the wrong value here. So for us to correct that, we have to go and lock this row. We have to go and lock the row. It's changing, so it's giving the wrong value here. Okay, so now I'll have to go and I'll have to lock this, use mixed reference to lock this. So for me to do that, I have to place a dollar sign before at B1. So before one, I have to place a dollar sign there. So for me to do that, I'll come here, I'll place a dollar sign before one. So I'll place my dollar sign there and I'll hit enter. So once I do that and I drag this, once I do that, I drag this, you'll see that the total is the same thing as the total earning, right? So we've been able to allocate this salary to each of these bill category based on the percentage we have here. So for us to do the same thing for other months, we have to also log we have to log we have to also log the column for this, so that once I drag, because I also want to drag like this, I want to drag like this, right? But it's returning 0 because here, this cell here, cell N3 is empty. And you can see here, this is N3. So we don't want it to move to these other columns here. So for us to do that, we have to lock the column. So how do I lock the column? I'll come here, I will lock column M. I'm going to lock column M by placing dollar sign before M. So once I do that, I do enter. So now I can autofill this formula down, right? I can also autofill this formula right. I can also autofill this formula right. And if we drag through, you'll see that the values we'll be getting here, they are all going to be similar to what we have at the top. Let me give it another color so that we can see that clearly. So now you can see that all the values, when you sum all the budget together, is the same thing with what we have at the top. So to recap, relative reference, move with your formula. Absolute reference, stay locked, and mixed reference are in between. Mastering these three will make your Excel life so much easier. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and watch the next video.